Okay, welcome to the March, yeah, that's a double negative. March Air Force Base Aero Club Safety Meeting for the month of March. And I'm Roger Mann, I'm the safety officer for the club, and Bob Pierce over there is the Aero Club manager. And tonight, you guys will be glad to hear that you don't have to keep looking at me all night. We have a special guest tonight that's going to be doing a presentation tonight on weather. Me too. I want to sit down and sleep, so just like, you know, you guys in the back do. So, for those who are new, if there is anybody that's new in here, we do have an agenda. So what we do is we kind of run through the agenda real quick, and then we do the presentation. First thing what we do is that we introduce new people, anybody that's new to the club, or somebody hasn't been here for a couple of years. We do have a couple of those guys too. Like Murphy back there, who's from March ATC. He's here. He's going to give a quick announcement too. Anybody who hasn't, I don't see anybody that's new.
Yeah, we got Gavin back there.
What's that?
Gavin Harris.
Well, Gavin hasn't been around for a while, yeah. And neither is Murphy, some of you guys. But yeah, I can't, yeah, I think everybody's old people here. Well, Jay.
Yeah, that's for sure. There's a lot of old people
There's
here.
some old people, yeah.
Dave and Janelle showed up for a change.
Well, yeah, I know. Janelle, yeah, David, long time no see.
Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy New Year. It's been about a year.
Okay, anybody that's gotten a new rating, new pilot's rating, that includes solo flights, or that includes even on the outside too. We're not, you know, you can advertise for something else too. That includes Air Force pilots too. Anybody? No, nothing, huh? Nobody, everybody's just status quo. Okay, well. Experiences. Anybody have anything to share on that?
Yeah, I can do one.
Okay.
With everybody? So this is an absolute bald-faced advertisement. I don't know if anybody here is as interested in formation flight as some of us are, but when I was starting, I didn't have good training materials. So having been a teacher for 50 years, I made a 2 DVD, here's the advertisement, 2 DVD basic principles of formation flight. It's $300. No, I'm kidding. It's
You said that with a straight face, too.
yeah, it's at Sporty's Pilot Shop now. It's $34.95. If you have any interest, it's 2 hours long, a little over 2 hours long. If you are a teacher, do not look at disc 1. It's the Pimsleur method of teaching. It's tedious unless you're starting out. If you are an instructor, you can use the second disc to go over basic principles that you want to teach your student. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Doc.
Roger?
Yeah.
David G can back me up on this one. We had a student pilot landed March about 3 weeks ago. He was coming in from the banding and lost his battery power. So he had no battery power. He couldn't transmit. He couldn't squawk or anything. And he was going to try to make it over Riverside. He landed on 3-2, got off at Bravo. We had a C-17 land, 1-4, and was told to get off at Bravo. And he said, "There's an airplane here." So that was the first we knew the airplane had landed on the field. But he was a student pilot. He did everything correctly. Whoever his instructor was, he did a lot of things well. He said he flew by the tower, rocked his wings, tried to flash his lights because it was getting right at dark.
Yeah.
And everything worked out. He got towed away, and security police helped him.
Fly by at night with no lights is kind of redundant.
I know. But you know, as a student pilot, can you imagine how he felt? But he was a real sharp kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I heard about that.
Sharpened up, now he knows not to land on military installations.
Yeah, exactly.
And Murph, speaking of flying by tower and looking for lights, we had was it Malcolm that had radio issues? Flew by the tower, could not see the lights flash from the tower. So you got to be very careful. We need to figure out why aircraft can't see the flash from the tower when they're shooting a gun at them. I don't know whether it's because the reflection from the sun or what.
Well, you know, something else that may be really beneficial for us as controllers and you as pilots, ask for a light gun on just a regular landing and see because it's going to be out of that left corner of the tower window, and
On short final or
just ask for a light gun. Just ask for a light gun signal in the pattern.
Downwind or something like that.
Yeah, because now all our light guns are handheld, so we can move them. Actually, we can move them around the tower.
Well,
they
they're
used
not
to be
hooked to the thing anymore?
They're not hooked anymore to the tower cab. So now we can actually just shoot the light gun around the pattern.
Are they any more accurate?
They're supposed to be better.
Yeah.
But
You have to go out on the catwalk
there again,
again.
until we get some
Fred, you
feedback.
won't see him, Fred.
Until we get feedback from pilots, we don't know if they are that much better because, you know, progress sometimes isn't always the best results.
Okay.
So, you know, when you guys are out flying, just ask for a light gun signal. If you've never seen one, then at least you'll get a chance to see what a light gun from a tower would look like.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Yeah. Type.
Well, I guess I had a couple of things to pass on. I got to crank down the wheels on 5.7 a couple weeks ago. And no, there's a couple things that we all ought to know, and the smarter guys probably already do, but somewhere in the course of an hour-and-a-half flight, the generator failed. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, the generator failure light never went on. Well, lesson one is that the generator failure light in the T-34s has a press to test, but it also has a dimmer feature where you can torque it down, and it turned out it was torqued down, I'm presuming, because I know a couple weeks before when we couldn't get the generator to kick in when we were flying up to Ramona with Rich, or Rialto. So at any rate, you know, I don't think it's in the checklist, at least it wasn't for 5.7, but when you turn the battery on, look for that generator failure light. And if you don't see it, you know, press to test it and, you know, uncrank it. The other lesson was that, you know, I started to look for a light for the tower because all this happened. The radios went out and stuff started failing right on downwind to 3.2.
I heard you cussing at me.
No. But I didn't look long for a light because then I realized, well, you know, dumb shit, you don't have any wheels. So I just went off and cleared to the east to crank the wheels down, but had my handheld radio. But I guess lesson number 2 is if you've never used the handheld radio with the headset in the airplane, you know, that might be worthwhile to do because fumbling around while you're flutzing around out there next to that big hill, you know, trying, you know, it's better to do it, you know, just to make sure everything works. Fortunately, the radio, there was, you know, once the wheels were down and, you know, turned the battery back on just to see if I could get position down thing, the real radio came back for a little bit, so.
Wusk was flying the other day and he landed, and when he went on the ground frequency, I couldn't transmit to him, but he could go to local for some reason. I don't know why that was.
No, thanks, Tyler. That's a...
I'm sorry, Tyler.
Yeah, blame the mechanic. The mechanic sits right back there for anybody that's mad at him, okay? Right back there. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, one brief thing.
Yeah.
George and I were down at French Valley Saturday. And I'm telling you guys all as a heads up, I don't care how much flying time you've got, we had a couple of people that didn't call and do that big field crossing. And George spotted it, and I saw him. We were turning right. I couldn't use the intercom. And he pointed at the airplane, that thing, what, 100 feet away maybe? And he was zipping along. And these guys down there are way worse than Corona. And so just please keep your heads out and pay attention. I don't care who says what, eyeball them. And if you see, one guy was pretty courteous. He said, I'm going down. When I said, I lost sight of you, and he went down a little further. He said, you got me now? And I said, yes. So that worked out good. But boy, keep on your toes, because it's not worth the results if you don't.
Landing lights aren't that expensive. I don't mind changing them. Use them.
Only $50 a piece.
When they work.
On that French Valley thing, it's been a while back for me, but I had a French Valley, almost the same thing. I had just taken off, called crosswind, called downwind, and a gentleman called. He was going to be crossing midfield, and I'm coming up on midfield, and I'm looking for him up here at 1,000 feet where he should be, and I don't see him, and I cranked the wing up a little more, and he's right on pattern altitude, and he cuts straight across. I had to go underneath him. And when he got by, instead of doing a teardrop in, he just cranked it to the left and went straight onto the runway.
Yeah, I've never had a good experience at French Valley. I had somebody taking off while I was on final once, taking off against me.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
with no radio.
That's when you get a pair of dikes.
French Valley it seems to be the worst place down here in Southern California as far as infractions like that. Even as far back as 10, 15 years ago, I can remember incidences like this taking place. So beware of French Valley. It's got some pretty loose pilots.
It's scheduled to be announced whether the Ramona Tower will close or not on the 22nd.
Oh, really?
3 days from now. Actually, April 7th.
Riverside Tower closes April 7th.
Riverside Tower?
Riverside Tower. The Riverside.
Maybe we get rid of these damn air traffic controllers. We might have some flying time.
It'll improve traffic flow.
Yeah, keep your ears and eyes open for these things. You're hearing a lot of stuff going on, and they're closing towers left and right, it looks like. So it's going to go back to the 30s almost, except that the airplanes today are higher performance and move faster, and we seem to have a lot of pilots out there that don't follow the rules either. Beware of what's going on. Anybody else? Well, I know you guys don't have anything because you haven't flown for months, years, decades. Well, okay, Aero Club Manager, we'll talk to him. Know your SOPs, I'll run over that real quick. And then know your weather. And Kevin Dennert is going to be our guest speaker tonight. He's going to do the weather. All right, Aero Club Manager.
Okay, am I okay right here?
Great.
You're good.
Real quick, we need to talk about aircraft cleaning. T-34, people that are running the T-34s, you got to use the creeper because we get oil on the fuselage. So occasionally people are using the smoke when they're not supposed to, because the people that have been using the smoke get under and clean all the fuselage, and we can always tell when someone's had the smoke on when they're not supposed to. So we're going to start measuring and checking the tanks when people come back, just indiscriminately, to see if you've been using oil out of the tank or not. Just be aware. T-41s, we're getting into the bug season. I know it's 15 Foxtrot had a bunch of bugs on it. So get your students and people who fly the aircraft, use the old pledge spray and get the leading edges, the windscreen, and the leading nose cone. Weather. We have some issues with weather. So to help improve the Aero Club and get what you're looking for, we're not going to take and call weather 15 minutes prior to the hour, because they're in the process of putting the stuff into the database. They're down to 1 man per shift. They don't have a lot of help. And for us to help them, they need to help us. Let's take a not call for 15 minutes prior to the hour until it's after the hour. And if we have fog and you see changes and you want to know what's taking place, and he says, I'm busy, don't get upset, because he's trying to put out a new database into the computer system of weather change. And I've tried to let them understand, just tell them, call back in 10 minutes, and or you just say, I'll call back later. Don't try and push the issue. They're as busy as we are. The other advantage you may have if you're trying to get weather to go between A and B, wherever that may be, if you're on a scheduled flight plan and you filed with the Aero Club, explain that you're on a filed flight plan, you're using an Aero Club aircraft, and that you need a weather briefing between March and this destination. and that it is an Air Force airplane. We don't have mission numbers. We're at the lower end of the priority, but they are to take and serve the Aero Club by regulation. We are not a tenant on the airport. We are part of 452nd, which is the Air Wing. The Aero Club has 452 in their designated. David?
Where do we get our TFRs then? They don't brief TFRs on the weather.
No, you got to go back. You got to go back to the 1-800 no weather brief, and then they'll give you the TFRs.
You might as well get the whole thing.
Or you can use the computer and get in, and you can pull up the data off the computer, which is at the flight FTP, flight training program.
Hey Bob, real quick, how many here know that we have Wi-Fi in the club? We've had it for the last 3 years there. Yeah, so anybody's computer can come in there and connect to our actually it's wireless, and the code for it is in that red book next to the computer, and it's inside
Second page.
there.
Second page.
Yeah.
It works on iPads, iPods, and all that.
I realize that there were some people here that had no idea. They've been coming here for years and didn't know that they, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, why don't you use our wireless here? We've had it for years. So you don't have to use our computer. You can use your iPad or whatever to check that stuff.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The next one I want to cover is we're getting credit card rejections. That becomes costly to the Aero Club. So if your credit card expires and you get a new one in the mail, please call Roger and say, my card, I have a new card now, and this is going to be the expiration date. Because every time we go in there and we get a rejection, it's a cost to the club. It's filed as a usage. So help us out, help Roger out, and if you've been compromised, be sure and call Roger and tell him that your old card has been compromised and you have a new card and this is the new number. I'm getting a lot of phone calls from individuals. I do appreciate you calling me because I transfer it then to Roger. I cannot put it into his computer. I'm not allowed to get in his computer. He's got me shut off.
That's right. So
just like everything else. A couple things with we've noticed David G found today on 29 Foxtrot and 15 Foxtrot the oil caps on these rebuild engines. Appears that the tabs are bent a little bit, and you can actually turn the cap 180 degrees and it comes back off again. So when you put on the oil cap, if you're checking the oil, turn it till it's tight. You can almost feel to where the little detent is and stop there. David's going to be in the process sometime between now and next week of trying to bend the tab out a little bit to stop the oil cap from turning completely and doing a 360 on the filler neck. Another way of putting oil into the filler neck, if you pull out the dipstick and stick it down the hole and you pour your oil against the dipstick, it will follow the dipstick into the hole and you won't lose a drop on the outside. I do that all the time on my airplane. I've never used a funnel, but it's just another trick and another thing you can try sometime. On the fuel tank, on the Hobbs meter and also on the Hobbs meter, round up. We don't round down. That means that someone else is paying another 1/10 of an hour on this thing. So it's always been, and I believe it's in the SOPs, that we round up. And on the fuel meter, the meter turns from the top and goes down. So if you see a 6 there, you put 7 in. Put that on the fuel sheet, and that's going to help us out, and it'll help out the next person and yourself. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions so far? Yeah.
There's only 3 acceptable sources to get TFR information: Flight Service Station, DUAT, or DUATs. If you have not gotten TFR information from those places, you have not gotten TFR information. Doesn't matter what website you get it off of. Those are the only 3 places the FAA recognizes. There are multiple places to get your weather information.
Yeah.
ForeFlight, WingX, all of those run through DUATs or DUAT, and you get a transaction record anytime you download weather for a flight plan through one of those systems. But TFRs, they're really tight on those.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, that's just real quick. That's what our instructors are right now.
You got Jay Molyneux here.
Yeah.
And Jay, raise your hand.
Yeah.
He just has to sign his contract. He'll be in tomorrow. And then he'll be available so he gets checked out in the aircraft. He's a Aero Club member for a number of years. So we're doing okay. Brandon is in school again. He'll be filling in periodically. And Alex, I understand, is probably on the weekends only. I have not seen him.
His is only weekends. And Jay, I got a question mark behind your name because I didn't know when you were going to be available.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I thought it was like my name.
yeah, well, that you know, that's. And then of course Fred can still do. I guess you can still do the check rides and stuff like you did the other day. So actually, you did Martindale. So okay. All right. Know your SOPs real quick. Again, this is still under student pilot procedures, but common sense tells you that these things there are things that we would do anyhow as regular pilots. So whether you're a student or not, if you're occupying the pilot seat, we will maintain surveillance of other aircraft, both on the ground and flight. I mean, obviously. When available, use radar services to help find other traffic. How many here use radar services? I use it all the time, anytime I ever fly down here now. Let's see, when cross-country, use flight following radar services, maximum extended practical, and so forth. Any questions on this? Okay. Weather. Be weather-wise. That's what I titled it. I don't know if that's what you... Kevin? Kevin is, he was a former... Well, what do you know? How do you call it? An ex-Marine? A former Marine. Former Marine, that's it.
It's ex-wife.
Ex-wife. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Kevin was a former Marine, and he was a weatherman, and that's what he did. And so he's good at it, and he's got a lot of things to share. So we'll get to it, and let me get you to the program.
I was in the Marines for 8 years. While in, like Roger said, I was a weather observer, assistant forecaster for that 8-year period of time. I spent 4 years over in North Carolina, so I have a lot of experience on thunderstorms, hurricanes, tornadoes, and stuff like that. And then another 3.5 years at Camp Pendleton, so the coastal fog and everything as well. This comes from this is a modified version of the weather briefing that we would do annually for the pilots down at Camp Pendleton. Nice clear day to go flying, perfect weather. When we start getting some of the bad weather coming in, can everyone see that okay? And on second thought, maybe we shouldn't go flying. If you see this, it should be a no-brainer. This is, like I said, this is a refresher course, so everything that I go through here should be just refreshing of the weather that you should know. We're going to go over meteorological parameters, avoidance rules, METARs and TAP codes, warnings and advisories, and then I've got some references there if you need any references on the internet or anything like that. Under meteorological parameters, there's air masses, fronts, Santa Ana winds, and thunderstorms. Moving into air masses is basically just a large area, approximately 1,000 miles of bodies of air with similar moisture and temperature properties. Two masses that influences Southern California are going to be the maritime tropical and a modified maritime polar coming down from the north. Four types of fronts separating air masses. Normally here in Southern California, you're only going to see maybe the cold front, or you'll see the cold front, maybe a warm front, but cold front's going to be about it. You're not going to see the included front. You'll see stationary, actually. We're going to go into that. You can get your preliminary weather from the Weather Channel. They used to tell us in weather school, watch the Weather Channel for how to brief weather, but don't watch it for the actual weather. If fronts separate air masses and air masses are 1,000 miles in diameter, then what the heck is happening over Texas and Oklahoma and Kansas and all that, because you have two fronts right behind each other, and what air mass are they separating? So I've posted this and I've shown this to my weather friends, and we all laugh and joke about it, because if I would have forecasted this, I would have been failed out right out of weather school. So you can watch it for a preliminary and then get a real weather brief. Cold fronts. Transition zone where cold air mass is replacing a warmer air mass. Cold fronts generally move from northwest and southeast. The air behind a cold front is noticeably colder and drier than the air ahead of it. When a cold air passes, or when the cold front passes through, temperatures can drop more than 15 degrees within the first hour. Expect increased convective activity, rain showers, reduced visibility, and lower ceilings. Effects last on average approximately 1 to 2 days and usually transition into a stationary boundary. One thing that you might see again on the Weather Channel, you'll see a cold front, and then even on the news you'll see another cold front right behind it. Again, you can't have the two cold fronts, because what air masses are you separating? You're not separating anything. What they're trying to depict on stuff like that is it's cold, but it's going to get really cold here. So, and like it says, you're going to drop, you can drop up to 15 degrees within the first hour. So what they're showing on those maps is actually, it's cold, but then it's going to get cold later on as well. So it's not that you have two fronts passing through, you only have the one. This is a makeup of a cross-section of the type of clouds that you'll have with a cold front passage. Right in front of the cold front you'll see the cirrus, then followed by cirrus stratus, and then you'll have alticumulus, and then your big cumulonimbus clouds, and then as the front passage, then you have your fair weather queue behind it. So you have the nice clear skies, fair weather queue, but it's going to be really cold temperatures. Warm fronts are at the leading edge of the warm air mass. They move more slowly than the cold front, and the clearing and warming is usually rapid after the frontal passage. With the warm fronts, if unstable, thunderstorms may be embedded along the stratiform clouds ahead of the front, and after frontal passage, thunderstorms may continue. And before the front passage, you'll have, again, the cirrus stratus, the altostratus, the nimbostratus, and then stratus, and then fog right down at the layer. And then after the front passage, you'll have your stratocumulus clouds. Stationary fronts expect rain showers, reduced visibility, and lower ceilings. Effects last approximately 4 to 5 days. Most commonly affected during the winter time, and usually followed by at least 1 to 2 days of fair weather. Just like the name implies, it's stationary, so it's just kind of, it's not moving or anything, it's just quasi-stationary, it's just milling about. Characteristics on the stationary front, you'll have little to no movement, usually 5 knots or less. You'll see that depicted on the wind barbs on both sides of the front. Stratiform cloudiness and rain or cold rain on the cold air side. Cumuliform cloudiness and rain showers on the warm air side. Surface winds parallel, as you see they'll blow one direction on one side, one direction on the other side, and that's, even if you're looking at a plain chart, you can kind of see without a front being drawn in where the front would be. Effects area of approximately 48 to 72 hours, and commonly occurs with continental polar air mass becomes modified. Santa Ana winds, you haven't experienced these, you haven't been in California. Strong down slope winds that blow through the mountain passes in Southern California. Winds can exceed 40 miles per hour easily, are warm and dry, and severely exacerbate brush or forest fires. And there's a satellite picture of it there off the coast, or coming off the coast. What my experience has been on the Santa Ana winds, they go on about a 3-day cycle. They'll start off kind of weak, get progressively stronger. The third day they're really strong, and then they start dying down again. That's kind of been my experience on the Santa Ana winds. Thunderstorms, hazardous flights, you have lightning, strong winds, turbulence, heavy rain and icing. Cross section of a thunderstorm, the red indicates the updrafts, the blue is the downdrafts. You have your wind shear turbulence zone at the front there. You have your anvil cloud coming off the backside. And the storm movement, whatever direction that anvil is at, that's the direction of the travel for the cloud, or for the storm. Three stages of a thunderstorm. The cumulus stage is the starts of a warm plume of rising air. The updraft velocity increases with height. Entrapment pulls outside air into the cloud, and then you have supercooled water droplets near freezing level are carried far above. And then the mature stage is the heaviest rain occurs. Downdraft is initiated by frictional drag of the water of the raindrops, and the top of the cloud approaches the tropopause and forms an anvil top. And I've seen it several times where you'll have several anvil tops because the cloud will punch through the tropopause and then keep on building, and then reach a second, and then you'll have two anvil tops up there. And then the dissipating stage, downdrafts takes over the entire cloud. The storm deprives itself of the supersaturated updraft air. The precipitation decreases, and the cloud basically just evaporates. On the East Coast, this will take half an hour to go through this whole cycle.
Well, that's scary.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to fly through this. This shows where you have, again, right on the top there, you're starting to have the anvil top coming on the sides, and it's still punching through, it's still building. They've upgraded this. It used to be 3/4 inch hail for severe thunderstorms, and now they've increased it to 1 inch on hail size. Hail occurs in all thunderstorms. It may not hit the ground, but hail occurs in all thunderstorms. It's going to come out the anvil top as well. So when I was weather observing in North Carolina, I was at a base called Bogue Field, and it's 20 miles away from Cherry Point. Cherry Point, well, all of North Carolina is all green and everything. It's nice, lush trees and everything. And then Cherry Point's right there in the middle of it. It's all concrete and asphalt and everything. Thunderstorms build up in the middle of summertime right over the air station. And 20 miles away where I was at the other air station, which was much smaller, we didn't have the same type of clouds and formations and everything. And we would get rained on, but it's clear above us. And that rain was coming all the way from Cherry Point, 20 miles away, the hail being blown out, and then finally falling to the ground, and falling as just regular water precipitation at that point. Wind forecast produced gusts up to 58 miles per hour or 50 knots or greater, and any tornado, of course, is going to be a severe thunderstorm criteria. Thunderstorms affect relatively small areas when compared to hurricanes and winter storms. Hurricane Sandy being one of those huge winter storms. Typical storm is about 15 miles in diameter and lasts an average of 30 minutes. Nearly 1,800 thunderstorms occur at any time around the world. Like I said, hail occurs in all thunderstorms. And the National Weather Service issues watches and warnings. For a severe thunderstorm watch, conditions are favorable for thunderstorms to become severe, or severe thunderstorms to move into the watch area. Watches are intended to heighten public awareness of the possible severe weather threat. So listen to the radio, watch, tune into NOAA website. You can get the weather briefing also from the air station. Warnings pose an imminent danger to life and property. When When severe weather is indicated by weather radar or reported by a trained Skywarn weather specialist or law enforcement, they're issued immediately. Types of lightning, you're going to have your in cloud, your cloud to cloud, cloud to ground, and then cloud to air. You'll have, for hazards, you'll have flash blindness, puncture of the aircraft skin, shock and burns, fuel ignition, and damage to aircraft. Pretty self-explanatory with the lightning. With wind shear from the thunderstorms, you'll have the type of wind shear that is most dangerous to aviation is spawned from microburst in an isolated rain shower or thunderstorm. Critical time, of course, is going to be during landing or takeoff. It's an extremely dry environment with little or no rain. The winds may exceed hurricane force, and the approach speeds of a weak to moderate tornado. The wet environment, in the wet environment, the microburst may be embedded in heavy rain, but its onset may be so sudden it catches pilots unaware. One thing to note is you might have no problem landing, but that doesn't mean the pilot behind you will. So you can always advise tower with PIREPs. If you hear one PIREP, that's fine. You know, you might think, oh, well, there's one, but I'm landing right now and it's pretty much the same weather. Go ahead and give another PIREP, because weather change is so constant in thunderstorms. It's better to have an updated, you know, PIREP after PIREP to let pilots know what the current weather is than to not have enough PIREPs. We used to always, when I was observing weather, pilots would be flying in the pattern, and we would ask them what the PIREP is, you know, because we're estimating cloud heights, and we want to keep pilots in the air, and we want to make sure they can take off. And, you know, so we'd go outside and see what the weather is and estimate the cloud heights to be 600 feet. And we would request a PIREP from the pilot, you know, and he would confirm that 600 feet or not. So if you're up and you have any kind of inclement type of weather, put a PIREP out, you know, let the other pilots know. And if you already hear one 5 minutes ago, put another one out. Because maybe another pilot flying into the area and changing frequencies didn't catch what that PIREP was. Two types of microbursts. You have the wet microburst that we just talked about and the dry microburst. You're not going to see it as much in the, it's going to be embedded in the rain, and it's going to be hard to see. Microbursts, just like thunderstorms, go through 3 stages. You have the downburst, the outburst, and the cushion stage. The scale and suddenness of the microburst makes a great danger to aircraft due to the low level wind shear caused by its gust front, and with several fatal crashes attributed to phenomena over the past several decades. Can you see the curl there on the left side? It's real dominant on the top one, and then it starts to dissipate as it goes down. The trees there on the right bottom were knocked down from wind shear, or from a microburst. Pretty self-explanatory. Microburst, stay away. If an airplane goes in and he reports microburst in the area on a PIREP, stay away. Plan your flight and check your weather well enough to know that you're not going into a thunderstorm. Avoid convective activity by at least, it says 10 to 20 miles. I would say roll on the good side of 20 miles. Because with the hail coming out from thunderstorms at 20 miles, if you're within that, you're going to get hit by it. Avoid freezing level. No formation flights, and don't use the autopilot. If by some fluke of nature you end up in a thunderstorm that was not predicted and you could not see, maybe you're flying at night, maybe you have the get-there-itis, Slow down, maneuvering speed, or slow cruise. Remember that flying the airplane is your most important task. Get out of the thunderstorm as quickly as possible. Keep going straight with wings level while you ride out overpowering up and down drafts, and then let a ATC know, and then ask for help if you need it. If you can't see what's in front of you, if you don't know where the big cell is at, then you need to ask. This is probably the most confusing part for a lot of people. This is the reading of METARs and TAFs. For non-pilots, and even for some pilots, it looks like a completely different kind of language. METARs, like Bob said, they're reported at the last 15 minutes of the hour to 59 minutes after the hour. So if you call weather during that time, you're really interrupting what needs to be done for reporting the weather. We have to get it out at that time. If we get it out after that time, we kind of get in trouble. So it needs to be reported 15 minutes before the hour, up to 59 minutes, up to 1 minute before the hour. They're taken every hour on the in that time period, unless there's special criteria that's met. Rain starts or stops, visibility, cloud heights, thunderstorms. On the first part, you have the identifier, followed by what type of observation, whether it's a METAR, a regular hourly observation, or a special, or it would be SPECI if it was a special. The date and time in Zulu, followed by your wind section, visibility, and then your sky condition, temperature and dew point, your altimeter, the remark section, you'd have your sea level pressure, and then your actual temperature and dew point to the decimal point. This is really important to see. If you see the remark AO1 or AO2, it means it's automated. The automated 1 doesn't contain the precipitation sensor, and the 2 contains it. Tower visibility is going to be if it differs from prevailing visibility, and that's going to be if it's 4 miles or less. The terminal area forecast with TAFs are generated every 6 hours at 09, 15, 21, and 03 Zulu, or whenever the forecast is amended. First part of the TAF, again, you have your station identifier, your routine, correction or amendment, the date and time of the forecast, the wind speed and direction, visibility in meters, and if you don't know what it is, you can always ask. You know, there's a conversion chart for meters to miles, so if you're not sure what it is, you can always ask. If you see 9999, it's unrestricted, it's 10 miles or greater. The icing group and turbulence group is followed by the 6 and the 5. And then forecasted minimum altimeter setting. First line of the TAF tells you the predominant conditions anticipated for the period or the next becoming group. The tempo group indicates temporary fluctuations to the forecast expected to last less than 1 hour in each instance, and less than half the period that is indicated. So in here they're just showing that you're reducing the visibility and light rain showers, as well as the broken sky condition and overcast. The becoming group is a change of the forecast, a change group, which doesn't normally exceed 4 hours, indicating a change in predominant conditions to the elements listed. There's all the descriptions for the weather symbols. Goes into proximities for rain, light, medium, or light, moderate, heavy, the obscurations, fog, mist, haze, and so forth. 27 states of the sky. So when you go out there and you're looking at 4 or 5 clouds, well, you might see 4 or 5, but I'll see 27. So, and each cloud represents what type of weather is coming. Like I said before, on the front you'll have the cirrus clouds followed by cirrus stratus, nimbostratus, stratus. So you'll have the different clouds, and by knowing what the clouds are and knowing what weather it comes behind it is always helpful. Turbulence is light, moderate, severe, and extreme. Most severe at or near the freezing level, caused by associated air motions. One, you have thermals. Heat from the sun makes the air mass rise and cold air sink. You have the jet stream. It's a high altitude air currents. The jet stream moves the fronts. They move the lows. They move the highs. Mountains, when air passes over the mountain, causes turbulence. We have wake turbulence, and then microburst or macroburst. Icing is most severe during mature stage of the thunderstorm. During the upper half of the cloud, updraft regions, and clear rime and mixed. Clear icing is the most dangerous. It's most dangerous because, one, you can't see it. It forms on the wings, it's clear. With the rime ice, you'll see it, it's milky and opaque and everything. For clear icing, it's most common in cumuliform clouds, temperatures of 0 to minus 8 degrees Celsius. Rime icing is most common in stratiform clouds, and then mixed icing is a combination of the two. Wind warnings, local wind warnings, gale, storm. Air meds. If you see an air med, you shouldn't be flying. Air meds are for light aircraft. They advise us of turbulence, icing, IFR conditions. If you see SIG meds, you definitely shouldn't be flying, because if the big airplanes are avoiding the airspaces because of the weather, well, then so should the small aircraft. And that's going to be severe thunderstorms, extreme icing and turbulence, tornadoes, line of embedded thunderstorms, and even volcanic ash. Has anyone ever seen this QT before?
Seen it, don't remember what to do with it.
Okay. This is one of my favorite parts of weather charts. This is, to me, the most useful item. This one comes from Tucson, TUS. You have the red line here indicates temperature. The blue line is the dew point. Where the temperature and dew point are closest together, that's where you're gonna have your clouds at. So if you're getting if you can get a SQT and you want to know where the cloud layers are at and how thick it is, you can look on this QT, and if they're within 5 degrees of each other, you're gonna have a cloud in that area. And so you can look in here, you can see that the clouds are gonna be right around 925 millibars, or slightly above the surface of the Earth, and probably in some areas maybe 1,000 feet or so. And so the cloud goes up, and then you'll have a break around 800 millibars, and then it comes back together again, and then you have a cloud at 700 millibars, and then it gets up to about 600, and it's clear skies. The I really like using the SKUTs because it lets me know cloud heights. It lets me know how thick the cloud is. So if you're flying IFR and you want to know, maybe you want to fly VFR on top, you'll know what altitude you can fly VFR on top at. It tells you, it can tell you the max temperature of the day. So when you're figuring pressure altitude and density altitude and all that, or even if you just want to know what the max temperature is in a day is going to be for just general knowledge, you can get that on the SKUT. It's going to tell you the different wind levels, or the different wind speeds at the different levels. So there's a lot of information on the SKUT that you can look at, and you don't have to really analyze it. You can just look at it and say, okay, well, the temperature and dew points close together, that's a cloud. And then how thick is that cloud going to be? Here are some weather references. Some of these weather websites are actual websites that we used in the Marine Corps, and that a lot of weather officers use. And one of the ones that I really liked was weatherunisys.com. They've got a lot of really good information on there. They put a lot of satellite pictures on there and everything. Some of the stuff is some of the, let's see here. They have one for universities are really good. They have really good websites. NOAA has a lot, of course, because of the satellites and all that. And then if you're not sure what the icing or turbulence decoding is, and you need that, there's a website for that as well. Are there any questions?
Are these free?
Yes, these are all free websites. Anyone can go on. Like I said, the Weather Unisys one is one of my favorite ones. And it has prognosis on, it has current weather as well as prognosis weather. And then some of them analyze the weather charts, some of them are blank, and they let you kind of analyze it for yourself. There's a question in the back.
So I was trying to take a picture of it tomorrow. Thanks.
There's also weather apps you can get for your cell phone. I've got one on my cell phone that has, I've got like 9 different weather apps on my cell phone.
Yeah, not real surprised.
Yeah, not surprised at all. There's one called Aviation Weather that you can get. It's the ones I have are all free. I don't believe in paying for anything. So I have the weather, Aviation Weather, and it's really nice because you can punch in your 4-letter identifiers, and it will give you the current weather for that location. It will give you the TAF for that location. It will give it to you uncoded or even decoded. So if you don't want to try to decode what the TAF says or what the METAR says, it decodes it for you. When you get a weather briefing, if you're not sure on something or if you have a question, by all means ask, because we love answering the questions. Famous quotes. It's better to be weather-wise than otherwise. Terrible with weather forecasting. The trouble with weather forecasting that if it's right too often for us to ignore it, and wrong too often for us to rely on it. Weather forecast for tonight, dark. I was actually driving back from Vegas one time, and that was on. Tonight's forecast, dark, with continued darkness through the nighttime hours, becoming daylight during the morning hours. Don't knock the weather. 9/10 of the people couldn't start a conversation if it didn't change once in a while. 2 things are infinite: the universe and the human stupidity. And I'm not sure about the universe. Albert Einstein. And a clever person solves a problem, a wise person avoids it.
It's a good one.
There's It's amazing how many people will say the weatherman's always wrong and we're always incorrect, but you always tune in the next day to see what we say again. So, and if you don't like what one weather person says, ask another one, because weather is a science. You can have 7 weather people standing in one room, they'll analyze the charts, all of them come up with 7 different answers, and all of them are correct. So if you don't like one, go to the other. Any final questions?
Is this thing that you just presented right now, could we have access to it?
Yes.
Is it on the website? Or?
No, it's not. I have it.
Well, it'll be in the email it?
It'll be in the safety video.
Yes.
Safety video. Can you buy the safety video? Or
It'll be in the safety video along with the top of your head.
Any other questions?
Is the aviation weather app, is that a NOAA one or is that the other one that's on here?
Aviation weather app it's not a NOAA app.
It's the other one?
It's
okay.
just one that I found. Yeah, I have on my phone, on my phone I have NOAA, I have My Radar, Aviation Weather, and then Weather Unisys, and then of course the Weather Channel for the comic relief. And then also, as far as forecasts go, we always had a general rule of thumb when we did aviation forecasting. We wouldn't go out more than 3 days. Anything past 3 days, and it's taking a dartboard and throwing darts at it to find out what the weather's going to be. So, you know, these guys that are forecasting 7 and 8 days out, after 3 days, it's kind of a guess. So if you want the real weather, don't go past 3 days. Wait 3 days and then get it again. All right.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. Kevin is a member of the club, so if you want to talk to him at any time, well, almost any time. All right. Any more questions about anything else? Next meeting's on the 16th of April. So it comes a little bit early because that's just the way the flow goes. Okay, and that's it for the March Sherrill Club March. Thank you.